What's going on, everyone? Today, we will have a very special guest on the stream. Oh, hold on a second. What's going on, everyone? Good ol' X.com, always messing stuff up. Anyway, here in a couple minutes, Spiro FL will be here in the studio, and by in the studio, I mean virtually in the studio, in the virtual studio. And we'll get this thing going. It'll be a good time. He is currently streaming, so I expect in a minute a whole bunch of people will stream in here and we'll see Spiro. But in the meantime, I'd like to thank our sponsors, or this is where I would thank my sponsors if I had any. You know what it is. You know how it is. You guys get it. The rat race and all, so on and so forth, whatnot, this and that. But he should be on imminently. So we're just counting down his arrival. If I was smart, I'd be watching his stream right now to know when he was going to show up. This is very good stuff. Very good stuff. All right, this is fantastic, guys. Just be waiting right now. Just hang tight for another couple minutes. Spiro's going to be here in just a second. This is all good stuff. It's coming along. He's orchestrating his raid so that he can bring his audience along. And they'll get to learn a little bit more about him. So that'll be a good time. So I need to go make sure that Spiro has the proper Discord role so that he can show up in the chat. That's gonna be important. All right, Spiro will be here imminently. Hello, hello, hello. What's going on, followers of the Spiro chat? How's everyone doing? How's everyone doing? Spiro will be here in just a moment. Trying to make sure he is in the right spot. This is good old live broadcasting stuff. Thanks everyone for showing up. Giving him the role that allows him into this room. And I think he has to do a little bit of nonsense to get into the server where we're hosting this this chat from. You know, just live broadcasting things, of course.
All right, there we go.
What's going on, Spiro? How you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I am doing well.
Good.
Let's see. We got to get the whole video situation situated here.
Yeah, I'm going to check on mine. Maybe just to be safe, don't put my video on the screen just yet.
Okay, I'll wait 1 second and then make sure everything's good, and then we'll go from there.
Cause I don't know what this video things. I don't know what Discord's gonna show when I put it up. So
of course.
Okay, that's not bad. That's fine.
All
okay.
Right. And your levels look good. Are you ready? I mean, we're already broadcasting, but like we gotta officially say when we're gonna start broadcasting. You know.
Yeah, true. Yeah. So should I could blast this out on like on Twitter maybe.
I mean,
Um,
if you want,
yeah, why don't
I
I
threw
do
down a
that?
tweet. If you retweet it, or you could throw out your own tweet or whatever.
Oh yeah, let me retweet that right now. Let's do it. Um, okay, yeah, there you are. And then I will retweet.
Also, I'm getting crazy Twitch alerts right now. Thank you everyone for whoa, gifting tier one subs all over the place. I appreciate it, Axelot.
Damn.
I will be completely ignoring the chat throughout the interview. I apologize for that, but it's what has to happen. We'll shoot to the chat near the end if they have any questions on topics I don't broach here. You know.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Okay, so are we audio live?
We are audio live. We're on the Microsoft Windows XP stream starting up screen right now.
Okay, perfect. So, okay, so I've got you on the other screen so I can see what's going on. Okay, that's great. So my voice is a little like trashy, but because I'm still a little bit sick, but other than that, I'm good to go.
All right, good stuff. Yeah, it looks like our levels are at about the same place. So, what do you say we go video live official here?
Let's do it.
All right, let me hop into my interview scene. What's going on, Spiro? How you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
I am good.
Good. Good to see you.
My video window's screwed up. Oh, I messed this up. Oh no. Oh no.
Uh,
Hold on. Technical difficulties. Problems of doing a
Boomer.
live broadcast. I know. I'm using a non-standard keyboard, so I don't know where any of my buttons are. This is all. It's immediately a disaster. Also,
Well, that's it.
the ruse is
Interview's over.
broken. It doesn't even look like a real Windows XP screen.
Yeah.
Anyway, here we are. Oh, this light is way too bright. I'm just now noticing this. Whatever, I'll just blind myself the entire time. Spiro, how you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
I am doing well as well. So this
Good.
is, of course, the Nate Hates Boring People podcast. This is the podcast where I interview interesting people and, yeah, I try to figure out what makes interesting people tick. So, Spiro, I invited you on because you seem like an interesting guy.
Yeah. Well, um, you know what makes me tick? Request animation frame.
Request animation frame. Request animation frame is it's quite good. I found it to give back to me what I put into it. You know, if I approach request animation frame with respect and dignity, I receive respect and dignity. And if I just come in there and just slap it around, I receive nothing good. I don't know. Request animation frame. That's a doozy.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that's it. I think we nailed it. I think the interview's done.
That's it. All right. Thanks everyone for tuning in. We'll see you next week. Now here at the podcast, we keep it simple. Only a couple questions, followed by a whole bunch of follow-up questions that are ad hoc. So, Spiro, first question: who are you?
Who am I? I'm just I'm a nobody. If I had to sum it up, I'm pretty much a nobody. I'm not. I don't have anything in particular that that I can claim any fame towards. I don't have any I don't know specialties. I guess I'm just a regular person like anyone else. I have passions like anyone else. So I love programming and just in general. Ever since I was a kid, and I am a dad and a husband, and like much like what anybody else, generally speaking, can say about themselves. And I just try to do the best I can wherever I can, just like everyone else. I'm nobody special. How's that for an answer?
I mean, sorry, there's like 9 different ways I could go there. I like it. Humble. It's good.
Well, it's not okay. Honestly, it's not really about being humble. It's just truthful. The humility comes from truth. That's where it stems from. If you can't be humble unless you're truthful with yourself, you um things like thinking too highly of yourself, greed, insert other characteristics in life that generally make you, not a great quality person. They tend to come from things that stem from not being either entirely or wholly untruthful with something. So, a nice benefit of just trying to tackle things as truthfully as I can is that I don't have to worry about those things as much. So it comes across maybe as me trying to be humble or me actually being humble in a genuine way, but that's not really the goal. The goal is I'm just trying to be truthful, and the truth is that I'm just stating like the truth. I'm nobody. I'm just like everyone else here. And I think that plays well with my interactions with other people in real life and in this streaming world, because I treat everyone else not as if they're more different than me than not, more like they're more the same with me than not. Um,
You go
so
around and all you
it's
see
just,
is mirrors.
yeah, kind of, yeah, exactly. Like what makes me stand out from you? Like pretty much nothing. And then it in a weird counterintuitive way, it actually makes the differences stand out just a little bit more when you start off with a place of comparisons that are more equivalent than not. You say like, hey, like holy crap, we have more alike than not, and then look at our differences, and then the differences kind of shine in a more positive way. Anyways, that could I could go on and on about
No,
that, but
that's. I
yeah,
mean, that's
that's
a really good answer to the question. I mean, uh, yeah, that's such a like a fresh, like nice perspective to have, especially in today's world where people are getting more vain and
yeah.
especially as a streamer, people are trying to stand out, and you're saying, no, I don't stand out, but this is where the virtue comes in. It's a really really good and refreshing perspective. That's one of the reasons why I had you on, is because your attitude towards this stuff is so different compared to a lot of the stuff I see out here in the streaming world and in the tech world. I mean, I know the tech world is full of big egos of people, constantly fighting back and forth. Oh, I'm smarter than you. I'm smarter than you. And I
Mm,
know I fall victim to that as well. I'm not acting like I'm better than any of that silly stuff.
mm-hmm. Yeah. So yeah, so here's the thing that bothers me generally speaking as well. I would agree with you. There's a general um I want to be careful, but I also don't want to be careful, but I'll be a little bit careful.
Oh,
Um
be however you want.
all right. So it's something I've noticed there there's like a I don't know, I guess you want to call it like a trend or an overall like state
Mm.
of mind. And it you see it in the streaming world. Well, actually, you just see it in the world in general. But because of the people here, our viewership, and who you and I are, we see it in the streaming world, particularly with programmers. So we can kind of hone in on that because that's where we're focused on. So what I don't see a lot of streamers do is ensure that they qualify their statements. So a lot of streamers will get the ego. It's really there's like a rush, to having people drop subs, give you hype trains, watch you consistently all the
Mm.
time, interact with you, and then that leads into a very quick unchecked. If unchecked, it can lead to a very quick, like gets to your head. You see your YouTube subscriber count go up, you see your whatever your TikTok count go up, etc., etc.
Mm.
And then that gets to your head, and then what you think, this is the kind of, if I had to sum it up and I had to guess what typically goes on in other people's heads, it would be something along the lines of, well, and by the way, this happens too with people who make tons of money and are extremely successful in terms of financial, at the very least. They think, you know what, I'm actually pretty smart. You know why I'm pretty smart? Because I have all these people who are willing to do all these things for me, insert any number of things I just listed plus others for me.
Hmm.
I have all this money. I wouldn't have made it this far if I wasn't an intelligent person. And then they immediately make a logical leap with a big gap in the middle, and they go, "Well, that must mean that the things I do are correct, generally speaking." Which means now that people who ask me for advice, I'm going to give them advice and say, "Here's what worked for me. If you want to be as successful as I am, you're going to do this thing." And then they don't, there's no qualifier there. There's that's it, right? And
Hmm.
then unfortunately what happens is that all there are plenty of people who are all too willing to accept that because they see it as a shortcut. So it's an easy button for the person who is enjoying their success, so to speak. It's also an easy button for the person who's watching that success, because when someone tells you that, your brain as a viewer or whatever goes, "Hey, this person is successful. What can I do that will make me successful too?" And then the person says, "Here's what I did." And then you go, "Holy crap, they have tons of money, they have tons of viewers, they're a big streamer," whatever it is that makes them successful in your mind. And you go, "Hey, there's a nice shortcut. You just told me a shortcut to being successful." And it's a lose-lose all the way down.
Yeah.
So when you're not thinking about the responsibility you have about how you got to your own success and qualifying that when you're describing that path to everybody else around you, you're hurting yourself, you're hurting everyone else around you. And that happens way too often. That does happen in our category with too many streamers.
Yeah, it's very, very deep and profound. You know, we're only one question in.
Let's go.
So
Let's
the
go.
next question, man, you're going too deep. Now I feel silly asking the next question. The next question is,
Uh,
what do you do?
okay. Well, first and foremost, I take care of my family. If I had to pick one thing that I do at the topmost level, it's my family. I do what I can to take care of them and support them. Um, Nothing else comes close to that. Not nowhere near close.
Certainly.
The second the second thing that I would do that I would say I do is whatever my career is, which is just generally speaking writing code. But the last few years in particular, the core of what I do is managing complicated systems for other companies and teams of people surrounding the execution of those complicated systems, and then jumping in where it's needed and writing code for those complicated systems. So it's more of like it's kind of like a mix of like architectural and leadership and writing code.
Hmm.
Um, and then I guess a close third would be I'm a streamer. So yeah,
That
if I
makes
had to sum
sense.
it up, yeah.
Certainly. I see when I have people and I talk to them in like a one-on-one like real scenario, uh it's a lot of the most successful people, the thing they're the most successful in, whether it's their career, if they're a streamer, if they're big into whatever, everybody thinks that their entire life it revolves around that. When usually the most common answer for very successful people is, yeah, I'm doing it for the family. And I think there's so much to just being grounded in something bigger than yourself to really drive your success home. I think that's something that not enough programmers hear. They think I want to be solo, do it alone, be the big man on the street. My programming is everything, and there's a lot of big picture stuff that I think a lot of people miss. And it's very good to hear your perspective on that.
One sec. I have something to add to that. Hang on. Let me clear my throat here.
No worries.
Okay, so here's the way I see it, which I don't think a lot of programmers see it this way. Not a lot, anyways. I've got a daughter. I constantly think about her future, and I have a wife, and I constantly think about her future. Now, here's the good thing about about my wife, and any good wife will do this for you, in my opinion. They'll keep you humble. Um, she would, if you were to ask her to explain things about me, she would do nothing but sing my praises because that's the type of person she is. But if you were to ask her to be honest, she could tell you all the ways I'm stupid, and she'd have a long list. And when it comes down to just her and I talking, um, she'll keep me humble when I'm being stupid, and so it helps to remind me and this is constructive, right? Like the word stupid has negative connotations to it, but I mean this constructively. She helps me to make sure that I remember that I have things that I need to be working on, and she's good for me that way. And it's also good for her because it's a form of constructive, upbuilding for her that makes me better at who I am and what I do, and then it, benefits her as well. So it's a win-win. But it it just it helps to remind me that she's also part of the reason why I do what I do,
Mhm.
and then my kid as well. And so now here's the deeper level, right? So there's a surface level, which is like, yeah, I do this for my family, and it's like, well, actually, it's more than just I go to work and I generate code, or I manage things, or whatever it is that I do, and um, I do it for the family, in order to pay the bills and make sure that everybody has what they need, and so on and so forth. That view is pretty much a this is what's happening now view. Let me take care of things now. What does that
Mhm.
mean when you think about it long term? Well, I mean, money, work and money, and working on yourself to just generally be a better person and remain a good person. Those are good long-term things, and they help your family. So in my case, it would be my wife and my kid. They help them out long term. But there's actually another layer that's deeper than that. And that's part of the reason, if not a primary reason, why I started streaming.
Mhm.
I've noticed at the ripe old age of 40, now that I've now that I've just turned 40, at the ripe old age of 40,
Hey, man, you don't look a day over 39 and a half.
thank you. You're my new best friend. Yeah.
That's all it took? Damn.
That's all it took. Yeah. That's all it took. And the lower the age goes, the better my best friend you become. Of course, that matters.
I'll leave it at I have journalistic integrity here.
Okay, fair. You're yeah, man of integrity. Yeah. Um. Okay, so what I've noticed in my long life now with one foot in the grave, is that programmers something's happened with programming in
Mhm.
general, with the tech industry as a landscape. When I was a kid, I know things weren't all butterflies and roses and all that. I know things were very different, and it's not like I would necessarily want to go back to those days in full, but at least in part, more so than
Mhm.
today. The limitations and ideas of back when I was a kid, so say the 80s and most of the 90s, the tech industry was forced to be creative
Mhm.
and um, use some level of ingenuity behind the stuff that they were creating.
Mhm.
There was something special about it. I think it was like the golden age of programming.
It was
The
like this
stuff that was
very scrappy thing that was led by pure enthusiasts whose entire goal is to go out there and make something neat. It
yeah,
didn't have its hand, it wasn't strangled by the bean counters trying to squeeze every ounce of revenue out every single quarter after quarter. It was this thing where people just really wanted to go out and create things.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I think the proof that you're right is um
Mhm.
the entirety of the agile methodology being applied in terms of t-shirt sizes, level of effort, story points, scrum managers, what insert any other kind of
Mhm.
agile manager, the entirety of it. There are bits and pieces of it in agile that are good, and I subscribe to, and that's great. But the entire agile methodology is proof of what you're saying.
Mhm.
It's an obfuscation of people at the executive or management level not understanding what's going on and trying to get their claws into what people are coding in,
Mm-hmm.
because coding is no longer about coding. Coding is about the company and the money, and that is proof that that's what that is.
Mm-hmm.
For the longest time, we didn't have agile, and we did some incredible things. So there's something true about that, in my
Mm-hmm.
opinion. And whatever's happening today is it's going in the reverse direction of whatever it
Mm-hmm.
was before. And more people are doing boot camps or picking up tutorials or doing surface level stuff, getting a job, and the job doesn't do them any favors in terms of treating the stuff that they're working on properly, and their boot camp isn't doing them any favors in terms of teaching them properly. And the tutorials, we have so many freaking clickbaity tutorials that are like, here's how to make 10K a month, 5 easy steps, get up in the morning, turn on your laptop, like stupid stuff like that. That's like, it's not real. Like none of it is it's so fake, it's so surface level, which goes back to the first thing we talked about, which is the vanity, right?
Oh yeah.
It's based on vanity. So and it's somehow
Mm-hmm.
infected my industry, and I don't like it, and
Well, I
so I started
found
streaming.
that it's so pervasive. This whole like, well, how are you gonna maximize your revenue with this thing? This
Right.
whole attitude of like, if I'll spend hours writing a program and somebody will say, oh, well, how are you gonna sell that? And it's like, well, first of all, this program is unsellable. Why would you consider that? Second of
Right.
all, I want to make something neat that people like that can be used. First and
Right.
foremost, if I can make $1 off of it, that's fine, as long as I'm providing value to the users. But like,
Right.
man, the main thing is providing the value and being and trying to make the world a better place. You
Right.
can't make your only goal in writing software be just writing software. I joke around a lot on on my stream and in my stuff about um, kind of the what your goal should be when you're writing software. If your goal is to prove that you're the smartest for this for some personal vanity, it's not right. But you want to make sure to be providing the most, or to just kind of provide the most value. I don't mean monetary value, just like whether it's writing the best code so you can become the best coder and work really hard to put out neat stuff, or really to help people. The goal shouldn't be only to make money or only to um, let's see. There's like an art to it, you know.
There is, yeah, and you have to know where that is. And
Yeah.
here's the thing: is there there is an art, and you can prove it. Um, one way to prove it is you can write something that's valuable to the user, but it's written in such crap quality that the the way it's used is
Mm-hmm.
lackluster, let's say. So for example, let's think about how many Electron apps have been created with Electron, which are actually, if you take the word Electron out of the description of the app and you say, here's what this does, you'd be like, holy crap, that's an actually useful app, I would pay for that.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me. And then you add the word Electron to it, and you immediately go, as programmers at least, you immediately go, oh wait, right? You immediately go, oh wait, and it's executed poorly. So there's a balance there between what you're building and how you're building it, and you need to have both.
Yeah,
And back
certainly.
in the day,
Mm-hmm.
typically, in
Mm-hmm.
my opinion, things were done with both in mind,
Yeah.
and almost by necessity, because you almost couldn't get away with focusing too much on one or the other. You kind of had to have both in order to have a successful product.
Mm-hmm.
Not so much anymore. And it's made people like vain about what they're producing and not care.
Yeah.
So that's
Mm-hmm.
so then I got started streaming partially to that reason. Okay, so now let's bring this back to why I started down this path, which was the family, right? So what am I thinking about in terms of the future of
Mm-hmm.
my kid and the future for my wife? So there's two things now that I can bring this whole thing back to. One, there's a general like vain, stupid, trolly, memey mindset just in the world in general. I think there's enough people that would agree with that being true that it's probably somewhat true.
Yeah.
Maybe more so than somewhat, but I would go out on a limb and say that. Um, so how am I going to combat that? Well, I can't fight the world, you know, but there is a space where it's pervasive in
Mhm.
that I know a lot about, the tech industry. So I can kind of try and help to change that mindset in
Mhm.
my little corner of the world and use the tech industry and programming and what I know about it to show people that it's not only is this not okay, but it's also not even like you don't even have to be this way. Things could be a lot different, and if things were different, it just takes a little bit of effort from enough people. We could change the landscape of the tech
Mhm.
industry, and that there's an underpinning foundational statement there that translates into something a bit more global, right? But I can't do the global thing, right? I just have to
Of
focus on the
course.
things that I can do. So that's one. But the second thing, and this is the most
Mhm.
important thing, if I can convince enough people that this is a better path, that if we care more about our code, if that we don't take for granted the fact that we have so many luxuries that programmers back in the 80s would kill to have in order to create what they needed to create, if we took enough time and effort to think about how and why we're doing what we're doing, and unfortunately this means selling people who are not programmers in this respect, like executives and managers and so on,
Mhm.
which kind of rests on a developer's shoulder, unfortunately, to try and convince upper management, so to speak, if you want to put you say those words,
Mhm.
um, to to convince them that this is a better path overall, that it means more money, more income, more customers, more, etc. Like there's a level of convincing that's really difficult to initially sell, but if we do it and it works in the way that I think it works, what would the world
Mhm.
look like? Imagine if the entire set of any piece of software, any amount of code that you can think of right now in the world around the globe was raised by just a factor of 1.5 because enough people cared about what they were generating.
Yeah.
What would the world look like
Mhm.
given our dependency on the software and the technology and even the hardware that we're building?
Yeah.
And that immediately translates into what does the
Mhm.
world look like
Mhm.
for my child down the road? So it's way deeper than just I go to work, I do streaming, whatever. I want to make sure I put food on the table, my kid has clothes on her back and stuff like that. It's way deeper than that. It's like, how could this impact the future of my family?
Mhm.
And then it has, when I think about it that way, that's actually a lot easier for me to process than um,
Mhm.
how does this impact the world as a whole? How does this impact Nate's family as well as mine? How does this impact anybody else's family who I know? There's a certain kind of it's like there's the same principle as like when you're in a room full of people and you focus on the one person. In order for you to get through the nervous factor of having to talk to people and what you need to tackle, etc. It's like, okay, I can't
Mhm.
focus on everyone else. As soon as I bring the entire world into it and I think about what impact this might have on the entire world, then it becomes like, holy crap, this is like overwhelming,
Mhm.
right? But when I think about it as just like, okay, I can look at my kid and I can think about what her future might be like, and what would it be like
Mhm.
if enough people like me cared about what they're doing. Holy crap, what an impact that could make. And I think about it just like that, that's way more
Mhm.
tenable to me, right? It's the same principle, right? And so that's like the overarching theme behind why family takes top priority for me, because all these other things stem from that, and they have a tangential benefit that it doesn't just benefit my family or myself, it benefits everyone else around me and even people I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, looking at the deep impact you could have just from spreading kind of more of a kind of a more of a mindset of of not trying to chase after next quarter's profits and not trying to follow after every whim of the PM and try to focus on really making good software. And then as that expands out, it could really, really lead to a lot of changes.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I think we'll
Yeah.
dig into that later. But right
Okay.
now, next thing I always ask, how did you get to where you are? What's your story starting at conception?
Um, all right, hang on. Hang on. Okay. Conception, eh? Um,
Sorry if that's it's a little bit of a conservative view, starting at conception.
yeah, I mean,
Political tensions being what they are.
whatever. I lean more conservative anyways, so you're in the right
Fair
you're
enough.
in the
Then
right
conception is where we start.
where we start. Yeah, 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 exactly. Let's go all in. Let's just do it. Let's go all in here. Yeah.
That's right. Let's start reading the
Okay.
Bible too while we're at it.
Yeah, let's start reading the Bible. Yeah. Don't talk to me about the Bible, man. I've read the Bible like 7 times back to front. Not joking. Anyways,
Oh,
um,
we'll dig into that. Hold on. Let me write that down.
okay, okay, I'll start kind of, yeah, at the beginning. So I was born and raised in Greece. Um, grew up in a very poor family. Um, I was raised as a Jehovah's Witness, which is a cult.
Mhm.
That's why I read the Bible back to front 7 times. I was in that for 30 years.
Mhm.
Um, my my parents didn't really make a lot of money, if any. We went to bed hungry a lot. The clearest story I have of us being poor. I don't think my sister remembers this, but my younger sister remembers. It was just her and I. My mom would sometimes cook rocks in the frying pan, um, for dinner, because what she would do is she'd cook them long enough until my sister and I were too tired to wait for dinner to be finished, and we would just fall asleep. So when we didn't have food in the house and mom just wanted to make us feel like there was food coming, she would just cook rocks in the frying pan, um, and then we would go to bed hungry, but we wouldn't complain about it. And I remember when I know that because there was a point where I got old enough that I was tall enough to actually see what she was cooking one day. Um, and I asked her, I figured it out, and I asked her, afterwards, and she's like, this is why, I do it, right? So please don't tell your sister, etc. Right? So, and then through a series of events, um, my dad was born in Kitimat, in Canada, which is up north of me where I live now, and so he had dual citizenship in Canada and Greece, and so he was able to get us to move to Canada. We were hoping, I guess my parents were hoping things would be better. There was some family here, etc., etc. Um, so we move here, and when we got here, one of the first things my mom got was a Nintendo. And holy crap, at 7 years old, was that thing like playing Zelda on that? Geez. And then I had the cartridge with the 4 games in it, and one of them was like I remember the Robin Hood game. I don't remember the other 3 games. But yeah, it was that cartridge, man. And that would be the conception of like why I wanted to get into programming, because I'm like, oh, I want to make games. So at 7, I'm playing these games, and I'm like, oh, I want to make games, but we're poor, etc., etc.
Mhm.
Um, and I couldn't. There were some extracurricular things that you could do in school here in Canada that you couldn't do in Greece. That just didn't exist. But I wasn't allowed. As Jehovah's Witnesses, the entire focus of your life has to be on being a Jehovah's Witness. So that includes things like making sure you're reading your Bible every day, making sure you're doing your prayers, reading the material that's being given by it's called the organization. That's the term for it. So they produce articles and
Mhm.
content that are supposed to be based on biblical topics, and you're supposed to read them every day. Like every spare minute you have should not go towards extracurricular activities. So, university and college is highly discouraged. Doing stuff outside of school hours, like anything beyond the necessities, is highly discouraged. So my parents, particularly my mom, would say like, no, you can't take this like other course that, was computer related so that you could learn stuff. So I had to count on whatever was part of the original school course. So, a few years pass. My mom becomes a um, Greek to English and English to Greek translator, and she requires a computer. And I don't know the details, but somehow she got her hands on a computer, and so yes, it's my time. So I start learning to program. I picked up C
So how old were you when you learned to program?
around 9.
Okay. Wow, that's really
Um,
early.
yeah, it's pretty early. Yeah. So yeah, I start programming C. I think 9 or 10. Yeah, C, and I started building a 2D game, and I got kind of far with it. To be quite honest with you, it was fun. And then things started getting weird at home. Honestly, they were always weird at home, but they started to get particularly bad. And then I couldn't. Most of the time, my time was focused on just distracting myself from anything I could do to get away from my mom. I won't hold back. I have no problems telling this to her face, but my mom almost murdered me twice.
Oh, Jesus.
She was not she was not a nice person. So there were days where like I ran away from home a few times. There were days where I would go to school and I would stay after school for as long as I could. Then I would come home and I would immediately go to my room trying to like circumvent wherever my mom was so that she wouldn't know that I was home. And then I would just go go and read comic books or whatever it was. When we went to what the Jehovah's Witnesses call meetings, which is just the equivalent of a church gathering, I would do whatever I can to like hang around, basically just like not be at home, or when I'm at home, just be as non-present as possible.
Mm-hmm.
My sister was a bit, I don't know, my mom treated my sister a little bit better, although not exactly great either. So I didn't have to worry about my sister as much. But man, there were times when I remember like on the weekends where I couldn't go anywhere. I could tell from the way that my mom got up out of bed and walked out the door, whether she was just gonna come and just randomly beat the crap out of me for no reason.
Oh, man.
And I could tell just by walking. So like it got to the point where I could actually like prepare myself. I'm like, okay, so she's in this kind of mood. I guess this is going down. There's nothing I can do about it. Um, I tried getting help. I particularly went to the elders in the congregation, and they're not, at least at the time, and I think it's still currently the case, they're not supposed to get involved in family affairs, generally speaking, although they're perfectly happy to do so in many other cases where it suits
Mm-hmm.
them and their beliefs. So they blamed it on me, and they said, well, what are you doing as a son to make your mother unhappy? And then that was it. So I gave up on that. So at 17, I moved out because I was worried like my mom's gonna kill me, like literally kill me. I know my dad saved my life once. He came in and literally restrained her in their bedroom, for I can't remember how long it was. I just remember I had to go to the washroom and clean the blood off my face by myself while my dad kept her restrained, like physically restrained. And I remember this so clearly because she was beating the crap out of me. I can't even remember why. I think it's because I got home from school so late. And my dad was a truck driver, so he was gone for long periods of time. He easily could have been gone for like days. But it so happened that came home at exactly the right time. Maybe there was some divine
Mm-hmm.
intervention there. I don't know, but he came home at the exact right time. Just at the tail end of me blacking out and stopped her. And the second time, apparently, my dad did something similar, but I don't remember that. And my family apparently does not speak of this occasion, is what I'm told. And then when I was 30, 31 or so, I got out of being a Jehovah's Witness. And so I never actually got to find out the story because most of my family are Jehovah's Witnesses. And once you exit the cult, they are not allowed to talk to you. They treat you as dead. As a matter of fact, I remember being at one of the church gatherings, and one of the videos that they played was a parents that had a child living with them. I think the child was like 19 or 20 of age, and the child just was somehow not listening to the rules of being a Jehovah's Witness, and then got what they call disfellowshipped, which is essentially you make mistakes, you're warned against continuing the mistakes, you decide to do them anyways, you're unrepentant, and so you're disfellowshipped. And the mistakes could be something as small as I don't believe in this religion anymore, to I had like premarital sex, or did drugs, or whatever it was, right? And the they had to kick their kid out of the home, and then their kid goes off, does whatever, does kid stuff, parties, does like honestly does some pretty stupid stuff, but still ends up getting in a car accident, is lying literally on this on the side of the road in a ditch. It's the last call before they die, and she decides to call her mom for help. Mom looks at the phone. She's washing dishes. It's her kid, but because the kid is disfellowshipped, she doesn't answer the phone because she's not allowed to talk to her. So like, and that was like an encouragement. Like this is what God wants you to do with people who are disfellowshipped, regardless of whether they're your family or not. So when I left, um, uh, I don't get to ask, like, they don't talk to me. So I don't get to ask questions anymore about like the history of my family because they won't talk to me. So, anyways, all that to go back to, I'm 17, I move out. What's the only thing I know? I don't even have a high school degree. Well, I know programming, and I can do construction work because I'm a young kid and I have a little bit of energy. So I know somebody who was kind enough to give me some construction work. So I did. I started out doing low voltage, which means you're just running like Cat fives, or like telephone wires or cable wires, essentially. You're installing home security systems. Um, what else? It was the home networked, like the central network home. There's a term for it. I can't remember now. Smart homes, and vacuum, internal vacuum, like with the pipes and the low voltage wires that go into it, and then you like plug your vacuum in on the wall, and it does and then the thing is in the garage, like the actual vacuum set itself and all that. So I did that for a while to get me by. Back to square one, poor again. Um, Not eating, or just eating like the cheapest thing I could get my hands on. Often, moved
Mhm.
around from different place to different place because I couldn't pay rent. Lived in my car. I slept out in a public park once. I slept in a few park benches. I slept on a tree. That was dangerous. I could have easily been killed by something. I just picked like the biggest tree I could find and just like slept out there. I don't know. Those were rough times, man. Those were freaking
Sounds
rough.
doesn't sound like fun.
No, it does not. And so then I'm like, well, after a year or so of doing that, I'm like, well, I have to do something to change things. So around 18,
Mhm.
19, I just started doing work for free. So I got on the internet. I think it was mostly Craigslist at the time. That was like the hot way to get jobs, if you can believe that.
Craigslist, the hot job market.
The hot job market, yeah. And I would post, willing to do free work, free web development work. And so I would work however many hours it was, 12 to 16 hours construction, depending on what it was and where it was. And then I'd come home and I'd spend another 2 to 3 hours doing web work for somebody in order to get that experience, so I can say I have the experience. And I did that for years, until eventually I started landing a few small paid clients. Probably took me 3 years, I think. And
Three
so I was doing
years.
yeah,
That
and I was doing
is.
the construction stuff. Yeah,
I mean, and I troll through various learn to program subreddits, and there's so many people who are like, man, I've been doing this for 6 weeks, and I don't know that I'm going to be able to find a job.
yeah,
And then to hear somebody going 3 years without making a dime off of programming, the fact that you're able to stick to it, I mean, that's insane.
yeah, yeah. Well, like the writing was on the wall that I couldn't keep doing the construction stuff forever.
Yeah.
And nor was it my passion. It was a means to an end. Um, and I always wanted to have like my own family and be married and whatnot. And then I eventually did get married, and that had an
Mhm.
impact too. So I kind of thought about it and was like, well, I got to do something.
Mhm.
And this is a passion, and it's something that I think I'm good at. It seems I'm good at this, so I stuck to it for as long as I did. And what else helped is sometimes I would lose my
Mhm.
interest in it, like anything and anyone. And then like a cool game would come out, and the game would like inspire me. It'd be like, holy crap, like FF7. When
Mhm.
FF7 came out, I'm like, oh man, like it makes me want to build a game again. But then it means like I need to go back into programming, which I can't really do unless I have like a job. Well, how cool would it be to get paid to do what I do? And then just like that cycle just continued, and it partially it kept me going as well. Um,
Mhm.
so yeah, eventually I just I started making some money off of it until I made enough that I could stop the construction stuff and do it full time. And then like one of my first full time gigs was a local paintball gear shop, where they had an in-house like retail store front end, and then a warehouse on the back end where they shipped across Canada. And I helped with their online e-commerce system. That was PHP back then. No frameworks. That was fun. Jake, I think it was jQuery and PHP. And that was one of the first like true, real jobs that I
Mhm.
had. Um, and that kind of started the road for like a proper career.
Mhm.
That set the groundwork for a proper career. Um, and I learned a lot there. I was there for a couple of years, and then I got married, had a kid. Then I left the Jehovah's Witnesses, with my then wife, ex-wife, and we had to make a decision before our daughter was born, whether we wanted our daughter to be raised in it. I exited
Mhm.
like kind of mentally first. It's called there's terms for it where you're physically in, mentally out. Physically in, mentally in, which is you're fully in, you're drinking the Kool-Aid. Physically out, mentally in, physically out, mentally out. So I was physically in but mentally out. I had done
Mhm.
a bunch of research on my own beliefs due to some things I won't get into on stream, but I was being blamed for certain things happening that I was told all my life shouldn't happen to me if I did everything that Jehovah wanted me to do. And they were happening to me. And the answer back to why were these things happening to me was, well, it's your fault. You're not taking your beliefs seriously. So I sat down for 6 months. I just spent like every
Mhm.
waking hour that I had extra beyond work and my wife, ex-wife, a wife at the time, to
Mhm.
do research on my own beliefs. And I'm like, okay, well, I guess it's time for me to take this seriously. And the more I dug into it, the more I realized it's a bunch of BS. And so then I
Mhm.
started kind of getting distant. My ex saw that. She's like, what the hell's going on? I didn't want to break up my family. And I knew that's what was going to happen if I decided to like just be open about this and make decisions for myself. I wanted to keep
Mhm.
the family together, and I was willing to fake it for the rest of my life if it meant that my family could be together. That's what I
Mhm.
wanted. But I couldn't hide it as much as I tried really, really hard. I managed to go almost a year. Eventually, my ex, poked me enough, and I'm like, okay, so like I kind of started small. I'm like, here's a few questions to think about. Here's what's going on in my head. Blah 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 blah. Then she started kind of like coming around on her own with a bit of help from me, but eventually the walls started coming down, and then especially with our kid coming up, we're like, yeah, we can't do this. And there was a lot of stuff we learned about, unfortunately, child predators who are sheltered in the religion. And so we noped out, and unfortunately, that also meant the end of the marriage. Um, and then I have a beautiful wife now. Everything's good.
Mhm.
everything's happy, but you know, that sucked because I didn't really want that, but it is what it is. And I'm not the only one with this story. Lots of people who leave the Jehovah's Witnesses realize they got married too young, under the wrong circumstances, pressured, etc., etc. Then they leave, and then it's like, well, you know, this marriage wasn't what I intended it to be walking in, and it's really difficult. It's rare to see people hold that up and be successful with that. So it's like, you know, don't feel too bad about it, but it still kind of sucks. You know, it's not what you want to have happen, right?
Of course.
Um, so but by that time, fortunately, I had enough experience in the programming side of things to um have some better paying roles where I didn't have to worry so much about like, am I gonna is my family gonna suffer through the same things that I suffered when I was younger? The answer was clearly no. I've built enough of an experience for myself that I feel pretty comfortable that I can get a job and pay the bills. And so between protecting our daughter from that cult, and having a job and that experience and seeing the fruits of all those the literal blood, sweat, and tears that got put into it, um, I feel grateful to be able to enjoy my time with my daughter now and know I can take care of her. But that did not come with any small sacrifice. Lost all my friends, lost all my family. So did my ex-wife. My our daughter, you know, will not know certain people in my family that I wish she would know because they won't talk to me or my ex, you know, and essentially therefore my daughter. Um, you know, but at the very least, I can look back on all these sacrifices and say, I did it for them and I did it for my daughter. And you know, there's something that's worthwhile, even though the sacrifices were great to me. And so here I am today, and I kind of want to, um, I want to push back on the what we were talking about at the very beginning, which is like the attitude and the vanity and the lack of sight, like literal sight into what goes on in life beyond just yourself and how you
Mhm.
deal with that. And I would like to try and help people see that I am actually no different from you, honestly. You might hear this story and go like, "Holy crap, what a story." Yeah, that sure. But here's the moral of the story. Here's the actual moral of the story. If I can do all this stuff, if you find anything
Mhm.
about what I said inspiring or like, "Oh, holy crap, how did you do it?" or whatever, it's like you can do it too. That's the moral of the story. And people like me who overcome these kinds of adversities and challenges and whatever are actually no different than you. We all go to the toilet. We all put our pants on. When you die this with the same stuff. When you come into the world, you come into the world with the same stuff. There is nothing about me that makes
Mhm.
me stand out above you. And that's not what I'm trying to bring attention to. What I'm trying to bring attention to is that these experiences that I've had mean, they literally mean that just about anybody who's watching this at any point now and in the future can overcome whatever challenges they have and they can do better too. That's the message I'm here to ultimately bring. And that includes generally speaking in the tech industry and, you know, as like a general like rule, I guess you could say, of life.
Yeah, it's so frustrating trying to talk to people and they say, "Oh well, you know, I didn't have this." The worst is when they point at me and they say, "Oh, I didn't have this advantage you had. I didn't have this advantage you had," and it's like, bro, first of all, I didn't have those advantages. Second of all, you don't need them. It doesn't matter.
Right. That's right. Does it make life more difficult? Yes. Does it mean you might have to work harder than someone else? Absolutely. Here's the deal. There's nothing you can do about that. There's nothing you can do to change the
Mhm.
fact that somebody has millions of dollars and you don't. What are you going to do about it? Accept it. You just have to accept it. You walk into life, you accept the terms of life. And this goes back to the beginning to again to our like beginning statements here where I said that I try to base my decisions in my life around what's true. Because when you accept the facts that are true, let's say, when you just accept life as it is, you're way better prepared to
Mm-hmm.
deal with those things than when you try to lie to yourself or lie to others about what life is so that you can try and figure out some easier path around it. No, actually, the answer is not to take the easier path or forge an easier path for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
That's not really the answer. Sometimes it is the answer. Sometimes you definitely do want to take the easy road. Sometimes it's actually good for you to do that. This isn't a hard do this all the time rule, but it is a general rule where if you accept the terms of life as life gives it to you because you don't have control over it, you are also equipping yourself to be far better suited to deal with those things, which means that if I'm a nobody and you in chat who might be looking at me, or you down the road who is looking at me is also a nobody just like me, it means you can accomplish a lot too. It's not just me.
Yeah, absolutely. There's this perspective that's so pervasive, and you see it everywhere. You see it a lot in politics. You see it a lot in tech. You see it all over the place where people say, "Well, the world is screwed up in X, Y, and Z way, and therefore it's not even worth it for me to try." And it's like, bro, accept it. Just take the world as it is, and then see what you can do to improve your situation or improve the world. Don't
Yeah.
sit around and just bitch about it all day long.
Yep. That's what it comes down to. So here's a good exercise. There's two exercises that I live by for myself. I'll give them away for free or for 10 easy payments of $9.99.99. Okay, these exercises did not come easy.
Yeah, payable to
Um,
npmail at PayPal. That's where you're gonna want to send it. Send Spiro all your money at npmail.
well played, sir. Well played. Okay, so here's two exercises that you can do. Here's the first and primary exercise for any short-term decision you have to make.
Mhm.
You create a duplicate of yourself. And I'm talking about like do this for real. Like literally sit down at the edge of your bed or in a comfy chair or somewhere quiet, close your eyes, and spend no less than 5 minutes straight. Seriously dedicate yourself to this and create a duplicate of yourself. Because the hardest thing to do is lie to yourself. You know when you're lying. So you you still can lie to yourself. Many people do it all the time. It happens. I've known to be done to do it. Like I've done it. But it's really difficult. It makes it way more difficult when you create a duplicate of yourself. And the point of doing that is that you constructively judge yourself. So your duplicate needs to be judgmental of you. And you're going to generate that version of yourself as somebody in the future. So that it could be 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, whatever you deem appropriate for the purposes of this exercise. And you're going to ask yourself some questions. So your duplicate is actually going to be asking you questions.
Mm.
Why aren't you doing better? Might be one question. What could you change to make my life easier? So imagine you're the future version. You could ask your current version, what is current version doing to make future version's life better and easier? And if the answer is nothing, or whatever, then you've got work to do, right? But you ask yourselves a series of questions that are intended to critically assess where you are right now. And the next thing, the other exercise that you do is genuinely think about what would happen if you were to suddenly begin the process of your life is ending right now. Just it doesn't matter how. It's just a magical event starts taking hold on you, and your life is about to end, and you have about 30 seconds. And think back on what you've done with your life and how happy you are with that. Should your life be ending? Should you have just enough time to think about your life before it ends? What's going to matter to you? What's going to be important to future you? What's going to be important to the you that is about to end? And the answer to those things, if you're being genuine and honest with yourself, typically you're going to find something you're not doing. that you should be doing. And it's going to be pretty easy most of the time. And that might seem like a scary thing, and it might be like, well, crap, I don't want to deal with that because it's like I'm looking at my own imperfections or whatever. It's like, no, 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 no. That's not the point. The point is to be looking at the things you can do. And at the end of your life, or your future self, or when you ask your family, down the road, it's exactly what you said. Have you at least looked around and made one thing better? And that principle also holds true if you want to bring it back to programming. It holds true to, like, when you go into a code base and you're looking at crappy code. Maybe a good way to make yourself stand out is that you try to always make some piece of code better than the way you saw it, even if it's not something you're tasked with working on, right? Just like a possible way for you to make yourself stand out in terms of programming. But that principle has a lot of usage in a lot of different cases in life. So there you go. You can have that for free.
It's good stuff. So normally the podcast goes for an hour. If you'd like to continue going, we can.
Yeah, let's however long you want.
Fantastic. This is good. This is good. So sorry, I try to make it a mix of trying to make an entertaining show and ask questions to satisfy my own curiosity. One of the questions for me is where do you sit on faith and religion now? Are you just totally done with it, or have you changed to a different one? Are you Buddhist? Are you one of these weirdos? What's going on?
Okay, so the bottom line is I believe that there's something out there.
Mm-hmm.
You could call it God. I would call it akin to God, but I wouldn't load the term. So when you say God, it's a loaded term because it's loaded with the
Mm-hmm.
preconditions required to define that term by primarily Christianity.
Yeah.
But it could also be loaded by other types of faiths and religions.
Mm-hmm.
So I would, if I could choose my own words, I would say I would deload the word God, and I would strictly use it in terms of, do I
Mm-hmm.
think that there's something intelligent that exists beyond our ability to comprehend? That there's signs of this intelligence,
Mm-hmm.
and that likely we could attribute the entirety of creation to this intelligence? My gut tells me probably. That's where it stops. That's
Mm-hmm.
exactly where it stops. So as soon as you start bringing things like um, particular religions, denominations of Christianity, including other religions which are not based on Christianity,
Mm-hmm.
that's where I start to think that you start to deviate from what I think that entity would actually be about.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't have a clear or satisfying answer to it, honestly. So it's only been a few years since I've left the Jehovah's Witnesses, and I'm still trying to get my bearings. But currently it's kind of this feeling of like, as soon as you start saying, well, if you take either position of the debate as to whether God exists or not,
Mm-hmm.
both sides lose instantly. The reason being that if you're on the side of God exists and you're arguing for God's ability to exist against, say someone who's an atheist
Mm-hmm.
and does not believe it, your answer, you have an easy button answer, which is the atheist will say, well, it doesn't make sense that God would do XYZ. And your easy answer is miracles. Done. You have an easy way out. And how do you disprove miracles? Right? So if you're looking strictly about proof, then it immediately becomes a place where the one side can't fight against the other. And then if you take the opposing side, where you say, okay, well, if God is real, then explain this to me. Okay, but there's that if you're an atheist, you're actually loading
Mm-hmm.
the condition of the debate with if God is real. You're entering you're entering a world where you're accepting
Mm-hmm.
the idea that God is real for the purpose of the debate. And the instant you accept that God is real, even if it's just for the purpose of the debate, what you're immediately saying is miracles. So the answer either way doesn't satisfy either argument.
Yeah.
So I don't think that's the way to look at it.
Mhm.
Nor do I think that the proper way to look at it is to rely on other people who are just like me, as stupid and imperfect as I am, to tell me the right way to interpret any biblical text, its authenticity, its gravity, the true meaning behind it, and then also tell me how to apply that to God, and then also
Mhm.
tell me how to apply that in my life. That I think is reserved for the thing that I think exists out there akin to God. And it does not belong to us to have these understandings.
Mhm.
And I think that's kind of where I'm at right now. Now, I am like exploring, I'm doing a lot more studying about different religions now because I genuinely have an interest in it, and having read the Bible so many times, and I do sincerely have an appreciation for people who have religious faiths. I believe there's a lot of
Mhm.
positive stuff that comes with Christian faiths. I'm all like, it's cool, it's fine. I don't have anything against them at all. If anything, I would encourage other people to just even just simply investigate. There's a
Mhm.
lot of stuff that comes from faith and religion that is, you can't, in some cases,
Mhm.
I think the statistics bear out that you can't get these positive things from anywhere else but religious aspects. I think
Yeah.
there's actual statistical, like scientific based statistics on that.
Yeah, I
So
mean, you
there's a
don't even need a
there's a value.
scientific base. You look out in the world today and you see what people are doing without religion. You know, you
Right.
watch religious rates go down and you watch depression, unhappiness,
Right.
loneliness go up. I mean, whether you
Right.
want to say that's because people aren't part of communities, if you want to say, people aren't as socially cohesive, however you want to put it, it's like clearly there's something that we as a society used to get from religion that we are no longer getting as we are separating from religion.
Right.
And a lot of religious people
There's
still seem to have it. So
yep.
yeah.
There's something there for sure. There's
Hmm.
absolutely something there. But I want to qualify this, okay? So this is I'm mostly speaking from my own perspective and experiences. I'm colored by a bad
Hmm.
Christian denomination that happens to also be a cult. Um, I don't have the answers. These answers aren't satisfying. I this is just me and where I am right now and my view. Okay, so I want to be clear about that. That
Hmm.
I'm not trying to tell anybody else what to do, nor should you take my word for it. But if there is one thing that I would say that you should do,
Hmm.
is don't be afraid of religion. Just look at it for what it is. It's like just accepting life on its own terms. Accept it on its own terms. Just accept religion for what it is, and look at it for what it is. You
Hmm.
don't have to believe in anything. You don't have to join anything. It There are still positive things that you can get out of it simply just by looking at it.
Hmm.
And that's it, right? And that is something that I would generally say is probably something that everyone should do. And if nothing else, at the very least it helps you understand people who do have a religious background. And when you interact with people like that, you might understand them a bit better. But, beyond that, um I'm just at the point where, like, I was told by a
Hmm.
particular group of men that they were spokespeople for God. Everything they told me to do was supposed to work out in my favor if I listened to them exactly. They interpreted everything for me. They gave me all the answers that I needed, kind of like pre-fed, pre-chewed food, and you couldn't question any of it. Like, I'm at the point where I'm done with that. That's me personally, right? And so I
Hmm.
find any religion that says, well, here, we're going to dictate to you what you should believe. Source, trust me, bro, I'm a whatever saint, elder, whatever it is that I am, priest, whatever it is, and therefore I have the divine authority to do so. To me and me alone, I'm like, nope, I'm gonna nope out of that for now.
That makes sense.
Just me. Just me.
Spiro, this is some good stuff you're dropping. You could start a religion with this.
Let's start a cult. I know how they operate. Here's the other thing. You want to hear something creepy?
Here, yeah,
This is
I mean,
super
I'm
creepy.
ready for it.
One sec. Let me clear my throat here.
This throat clearing moment brought to you by no one. Theraflu, please sponsor me.
All right. Once you've been in a cult for 30 years, you know how they operate. You learn all the ins and outs. And they have measures which are extremely effective and generally overlap between other cults as well. So if you know anything about, what would it be? Mormons, I believe Seventh Day Adventists are similar.
Hmm.
Or if you take a look at any actual cult that has been called a cult and is actually a cult, in media, that would probably be
Hmm.
non-religious. So you could look at Heaven's Gate. Um, there's another one that I won't say the name of because you can literally get in a lot of trouble for it. And there was one more I was thinking of. Anyways, so there are some methodologies that are like the same across the board.
Hmm.
Once you know how cults operate, I see cults everywhere,
Yeah.
politically, with streamers, in the tech industry, in other
Hmm.
industries, in certain types of beliefs that are both religious and
Hmm.
non-religious, in social construction mechanisms, in you, even in things that are like um hell a
Hmm.
really quick one that I can think of is like capitalism versus socialism. Oh man, do I see cults on both sides of things there, right?
Yeah.
And you can see how cults operate, how groups of people generate cults out of the methodologies that cults use to generate cults in like everything. I can smell them a mile away now.
So
And it's
what would you
really
say are some of the
creeping up
things to
the
look
race.
for?
Some things to look for in a cult. Okay, so this is
Actually, wait a second.
the
The way you said that. Oh yeah, some things to look for. When you're looking for cults, I mean, we all do it. Here are the
here
top
yeah.
10 cult things you need.
Well, here's the top number 1. This is easily the first telltale sign that you are entering cult territory. And in the current landscape of our world, um, this is the most effective. It has worked wonders. If you have eyes to see, I'm taking a verse out of the
Mm.
Bible now, from direct straight from Jesus. If you have eyes to see and ears to hear, you divide people. So what you do is you start creating others. As soon as you start creating others, you're starting to enter cult territory, hands down, the
Mm.
first sign. So as soon as you start saying things like, this is what happens with Jehovah's Witnesses, okay? So what'll happen is, I'm disfellowshipped, so I'm
Mm.
considered someone who, in the Jehovah's Witness literature, they call them mentally diseased. I am a mentally diseased person, insofar
Mm.
as my exit from the religion means that I have been captured by Satan the devil and his demons, literally. They have infiltrated my mind and diseased me mentally such that I prefer to live in the world in debauchery and degeneracy, etc., as opposed to the clean standards of living
Mm.
that Jehovah's Witnesses are supposed to live by.
Yeah, I
And so
mean, I can tell
therefore,
you're living that debaucherous lifestyle. I mean, I'm
the
looking right
first thing
at
I
you.
did,
Look at how long your hair is.
yes,
Keep it high and
yes,
tight, man.
yeah. The first thing I did was, like I gotta hook myself up with some of those sweet, drugs, right? As soon as I got out of Joe's, that's the first thing I did, get into drugs and the alcohol and all of that, right?
Not to mention
Like
the
no,
whores.
no, so many of them lined up in the back streets, you just pick and choose whomever. Yeah. No, I mean like that's not how it works, right?
Of course.
Um, I mean, some people do that. Like in fairness, there are some people who do that, but that's not that's a very broad statement to be making, especially for an organization that makes that kind of a statement to
Hmm.
8, I think their current 8 million, they have currently 8 million members. So that's what they say, right? So they
Hmm.
immediately other you. You become disfellowshipped, you're mentally diseased, and so they create the other. So someone like me is a threat to the faith of a Jehovah's Witness who's still in. You can see that in a bunch of different
Hmm.
things in life. So that does happen in the tech industry as well.
Yeah, bro, don't write
When
a single line of JavaScript. You'll become one of the
right,
TypeScript Andes. You got to
right,
stay on my
exactly.
side. We're back end engineers. We're the
That's
real
right.
ones.
That's right. That's right. That's right. I would say that the biggest. the biggest abused language that I have personally seen is PHP. People love to other PHP users.
PHP's
Um,
nice and pleasant, honestly, for what it's
I
good
mean,
for.
it's not the most terrible thing you can think of. Is it like great? No. Can you make legitimate complaints? Yes. But there are people who really do go too far, and the other PHP users, and then it really starts to begin mimicking a cult when you follow that through to you add that kind of behavior along with certain other behaviors, because that behavior is like the gateway drug to other behaviors that lead you down the culty kind of setup. Because as soon as you start othering people, you start feeling really good about yourself. And when other people join you and you get that echo chamber of othering people, and then if somebody
Mhm.
else comes is like, yeah, PHP users suck, then you start adding other, you open the door to other habits, or not habits, ways of thinking, I suppose, or statements you make that's are exactly leading down to the cult path,
Mhm.
where now you're becoming a cult of something. Sometimes it's a personality, sometimes it's a thing. So like that kind of stuff I can smell it a mile away, and I think that happens a lot with many things in the tech community. But it's because of the Jehovah's Witness background I have that I can see it, right? And I don't think very many people can see
Mhm.
it.
Yeah, this is something that I always get really annoyed at. Is I like to work on different projects, and I like to have like a wide base of things. And
Hmm.
every time you say, "Oh yeah, I'm writing this new app," and they go, "Oh, what are you writing it in?" No matter what you say,
Yeah,
someone is going to come up and go, "Why would you ever use that? What's your point?" I get that when I say I'm writing Swift. I get that when I say I'm writing Go. I get that when say I'm writing
yeah,
React. I get that when I say I'm writing anything. Oh, why don't
yeah,
you just use XYZ language? Rust is a big cult these days.
yeah, yeah. So like, look, I think there are people in chat who might know some of my
Hmm.
history and how I feel about React. So you could say that I say that about React,
Oh,
but
we all
here's
fall
here
into it. It's not like, I'm not saying
right,
I'm above this even.
right. I'm not above it either. But here is what I do try to do, having taken lessons from my Jehovah's Witness background,
Hmm.
which is, and then the second most common thing that I
Hmm.
see in cults these days, generally speaking, is you cannot question authority.
Oh, yeah.
So when I say something like, ugh, React sucks, I do it kind of trolly, but then if I have a legitimate reason to say that, I have hundreds of hours of
Hmm.
VODs. I have gone and actually had, you could say, debates or discussions or whatever you want to call them, with people who take the stance that React is actually like,
Hmm.
there's nothing wrong with it. We should be using it more. The
There's
complete
nothing
opposite of
wrong
me.
with React.
Right. And then instead of just being like, well, no, you suck, React sucks, I don't want to
Hmm.
talk to you. I'm like, okay, well, let's talk about it. And we'll sit there and talk about it on stream for an hour and a half or 3 hours or however long, at the disbenefit of the entire, viewer base of my chat, who gets bored at hearing this thing go on. But I'm going to do that because I have actual points to make. There's a reason why I'm saying it. And unlike a cult, I don't want to be non-questionable. I don't want to be that person that you can't question, where I don't want to learn anything and the other person doesn't want to learn anything, and we just other
Hmm.
each other and walk away, and then like what's the point of that?
Yeah.
Right? So that is the second most common thing. And if you just take those two and you question whether you're currently seeing it in something you're seeing in life in general, you will find that there are a lot more, at the very least, cult like systems in action right now
Hmm.
than you could possibly imagine. And it is creepy and scary.
Yeah, absolutely. Just mentally, I'm going through like all the different stuff. You know, Definitely politics. Modern day
Yeah.
politics is all that. You see it in, yeah, like you said, in technology, people's like brand identity. I wear Nike shoes.
Yeah.
It feels so silly too when you
Yeah.
when you look at the way people treat some of these things.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Hmm.
it's unfortunate because it's potential lost. Right. There's like a lot of potential that that exists for a lot of people, individually and in a more general sense. And a lot of that kind of gets lost or wasted,
Mm.
because there's not enough awareness of what's going on, right? And it's and the things that we have available to us are not being used the best way that they can be used.
Yeah,
And you know
absolutely.
what? It doesn't even, honestly, it doesn't even take everybody in the world to
Hmm.
change. All it takes is enough people, just
Yeah,
enough people to turn the tide.
yeah. It's interesting. So, from way back earlier, I want to have more of a discussion on kind of programming philosophy and
Mm,
whatnot, because I
mm,
think our views on kind of what the goal of the programmer should be are compatible, but very different, and I wanted to explore that a little bit more. So I'll just start by saying when I set out to program something, generally my main goal is to first and foremost provide value, and then second make it so that my code is maintainable and beautiful. But the first goal is to make it so that when I write something, it's useful to generally at least me, and preferably someone else, and ideally multiple people. So I've kind of taken this focus in the last few years. I'd like your opinion on this of kind of focusing on user interface first and making it so that I have a program that is pleasant to be used by the ideal consumer. And again, the consumer may only ever be me. So it's going to, depending on who my target audience is, it could be very different. You know, if I'm writing a program for myself, it's just going to be a command line application. But if I'm writing a program for someone else, I'll try to meet them exactly where they are. And if that means that I have to write Swift UI because I think a Mac user might want to use my program, then that's why I'll write Swift UI. You know, I keep mentioning Swift. But
mm,
I like to try to be useful and meet the user where they are first and foremost, and then do everything I can starting from that standpoint to make the code as beautiful and expressive and maintainable as possible. Which doesn't necessarily mean trying to make profit, because if you make some app that can make a lot of money by shoving in random nonsense features like Discord is a great example of that, right?
mm.
Where they just keep adding different ways to make money and don't improve their core platform. So it's not necessarily trying to make more make it more monetarily valuable, but make it more useful. So I kind of lean, I think, a little bit closer on the side of product first. And I hate saying product first because it's not exactly what I mean. It's making something useful first.
Mm.
I don't know. I've just spat a whole bunch of words at you. Thoughts?
No, that's fine. I'm thinking about how to properly answer that.
Like I think our views aren't actually that different. It's just the starting point, I think.
Right.
Also, don't worry about dead air.
Okay.
I don't care. We're deep in thought, you know.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I for sure am, because there's what I'm trying to do is I think we agree. I'm trying to analogize it. Um okay. So here's an analogy.
Mm-hmm.
Um it doesn't matter how beautiful a car looks if you can't drive it. And it pretty much doesn't matter how nice a car drives if it looks like an absolute piece of crap. There's a balance there.
Certainly.
And I think that's where we're what you're kind of leaning towards, and kind of where I would agree. Um, when you care about what you're building, you're going to care about every aspect of it. Now, whether you focus on like the UI or the way that it's being used from a user's point of view, or you're looking at what's going on underneath, under the hood, so to speak, with your code, it doesn't matter. You're going to care about it either way. You're going to care about both those things, and you're going to care about those things together,
Mm-hmm.
and you're going to care about other extraneous things as well, and.
Yeah.
Whether you begin with one or the other is mostly
Mm-hmm.
irrelevant. It's only relevant insofar as you've taken enough care to think through about what you're building that you've decided that one needs to take precedence over the other for a particular case. Because you have something in mind. You have to focus first on UI, or you have to focus first on the code, or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're making those decisions based on the fact that you care, eventually your end goal should be a relatively nice
Mm-hmm.
balance between all the things you need to balance.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's like
But
looking at like
that's
a Porsche 911 or something. Going back to the car thing, where it's like
mm,
beautiful car, and they drive the best out of anything. Maybe the thing is you should just be relentless about making sure you have no compromises in, maybe not no compromises. Obviously, compromises are going to happen, but you should be relentless in trying to improve the overall look everything in its totality as opposed to just looking at one end of it.
right.
And then whatever point you start at, then yeah, that part's going to be shored up before the other part, and you might have to go back and change some things. But as long as you have a perspective on it and you don't relentlessly go after one aspect to the exclusion of everything else.
That's right. That's right. So this has a direct impact when you're working at a company where you can be you're the solo developer or you're developing in a team. If you're developing in a team, you have the added issue of what is everyone else doing, and are they seeing what we're building through that lens? If they're not, then what's going to happen is that they might not be siloed off completely, but they are essentially siloed off in terms of thinking,
Mm-hmm.
in terms of the way they view the project, which generally does
Mm-hmm.
translate, in my opinion, it translates into siloed off code. Now the code might be integrated, with the rest of the code base, and you're like, what are you talking about, Spiro siloed
Mm-hmm.
off? What I mean is you do a fire and forget on your code, and you don't think about where how your code is being used beyond just what you're doing for that day or that hour or whatever the period of time is you're generating code for. Nobody's really going to check it. No one's really going to check it through that lens where you're trying to find that balance. And even if you're by yourself or you do have like an entire team who all think the same way, you're still going to come up against, well, there's a business here, which means we have time crunches, which means
Mm-hmm.
we have managers, which means we have people telling us to be making decisions that we might not like, and that might be required so that we can all ensure that the bills are still getting paid, because I also want to put food on my table just as much as anyone else here
Mm-hmm.
does. So if that means that I have to cut a few corners so that we can continue putting food on the table, then that's what I'm going to do. So how do you how would you combat that? Well, I think what's happened is that that's a completely
Mm-hmm.
fine, sane viewpoint to take. Everybody wants, including myself, we all want to get the paycheck. At the end of the day, we need to be able to feed ourselves, and we work. Ideally, when you're with colleagues, you work together so that you can all like participate in the bringing in of that income, so you all have a standard of living.
Mm-hmm.
We've leaned too much in the bad direction of that, where that has been mostly the goal, and not enough developers stand up to it. And if you
Yeah.
have the right people at leadership levels who are developers, engineers, programmers, architects, whatever, they have a direct interface to managers and executives. And they need to be standing up more towards explaining why this is actually a bad option, particularly financially. Because exactly, let's take Discord as an example, but you could take any company that has recently gone down the crapper as an example. What happens is you let the management and the executive team drive too much.
Yep.
They're important. They're critical to driving the company and making sure that, business is still booming and that income is flowing and people are getting paid, and they're doing stuff that you can't do as a programmer or as an engineer or as the lead. That's totally fine. But
Mm-hmm.
when you let them make the decisions too much and you don't push back enough, then what you get is people who are making decisions that have technical impacts where either you're responsible for then being for not having enough care to say something about it,
Mm-hmm.
or you don't have enough sense to do something about it, to say something about it. What needs to happen is that people in engineering leadership roles need to interface with managers and executives way more, and they need to be able to come up with a compelling reason why it makes more sense financially to push back on a few things. It takes some balance, it takes some communication skills. Granted, not everyone has that. I know this is not an easy ask, but it's the only way that I can see that we quote unquote fight back in a good way, in a positive way
Mm-hmm.
against this. And so what you would do is something like, listen, I know that you want us to get this new feature out the door by X date. But here's the problem. If we're going to focus entirely on this new feature, or mostly on this new feature, what we're going to do is exclude a bunch of bugs that need to get fixed. And then what's going to happen is that the new
Mm-hmm.
feature, being fresh, will inevitably also have its own bugs. Then what's going to happen is that we're going to have a compounded set of bugs when this feature is released. What does that
Mm-hmm.
mean for you as the executive? Well, it means that at 2 a.m. in the morning, you're going to get a very upset call from somebody internally or from a really important client, and they're going to say, why is this new bug here? And then you're going to be screaming at us to go fix a bunch of bugs. Whereas if we take a bit of time now and we fix X number of bugs, then it actually makes our ability to release the new feature, maybe it pushes it by a
Mm-hmm.
few weeks or however much it pushes it, but it makes it more solid upon release. And we have fewer bugs out the door, which means that when it's released at the customer level, what you're getting is not only a new feature, but also less bugs as well at the cost of a little bit of like period of time. What does that translate into? Well, that translates into potentially more money for you, because then you're going to have happier customers who are going to be happier to recommend your product to whomever it is, which means more money, right? So given the
Mm-hmm.
two things, what is the time worth to you right now up front, as compared to the return on investment you're going to get by sacrificing that time versus
Mm-hmm.
not, right? Now those are difficult things to be able to conversate about with somebody at the executive level or at the management level when you're in a tech leadership role, because there is definitely a gap there, and one or both of you are trying to bridge that gap, and it's not an easy gap to bridge. Not all the time. Sometimes it is, but not all the time. But we need to be doing more of that, because that will make it more apparent when it's okay to sacrifice certain things and when it doesn't. But it requires that at least one person needs to care enough to do it. And if there isn't one person who cares enough to do it, it's not going to happen, which means we're just going to see more of the crappy quality software that we're so accustomed to seeing.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the things I always try to impress on my viewers and community is that being able to write the best code and taking orders on what code to write is not the best thing for yourself or society or software in general, because you have to have these communication skills. You have to be able to look at the broader picture. You have to be able to take the requests you're getting and turn them into. You have to be able to take input from customers or from your viewers or from whomever, and kind of be able to turn that into something useful, as opposed to being just a machine that writes the best code and whatever. Like I'll be the first to admit I'm not an exceptional programmer. I think I'm pretty good, but I'm not amazing. I'm not on the level of the greats or anything. But
Sure.
but what makes me so effective is generally, and I'm kind of talking myself up, but I don't mean to say this with a lot of ego.
No, that's fine. That's fine.
But what makes me effective is more the empathy and the communication skills. And
Right.
I'm rewarded so much more for my communication skills and ability to kind of explain how things are and, you know, converse with people and figure that stuff out than I am for being able to write the best code. You know, the
Right.
being able to shit out an algorithm that does X Y Z in 1 millisecond is nice, and I like to improve those skills. But long term, it's not actually what leads to better software, despite what the Rust people would have you think.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, that's fair. And here's the other thing. You can learn communication skills for the most part.
Yeah.
You don't even have to be an expert
Mhm.
communicator. You just like you can learn like a new programming language or whatever, you can learn like basic enough communication skills that get you a lot farther than not learning them at all. So it might seem daunting at first. It is daunting at first. I'm talking from experience. It's like the idea that you're going to go communicate like complicated ideas to people who are not in your wheelhouse or who even hold sway over the nature of your job even like that can be nerve-wracking in and of itself, but these are things that you can learn.
Mhm.
And if you if you utilize some of the resources to pick up some of the basics of like clearly
Mhm.
communicating certain things, which I'm constantly doing that, constantly trying to learn and do
Mhm.
better. But if you can do enough, you can have a good impact. Like you can do it. It is doable.
There's always a joke I tell when I'm hanging out with non-engineers that are like adjacent to the engineering organization I work in. It's like, as an engineer, the communication skills are important and helpful, but you don't even have to be that good. I operate at a normal human level of communication, and for an engineer, that is crazy.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know, that's the prom king, captain of the
that's right.
football club or football
That's
team,
right.
whatever.
That's right.
The whole
Yeah.
thing,
If a
just at
bunch of engineers got
regular levels.
together, yeah, 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 exactly. If a bunch of engineers got together and threw a prom, engineers only, NPM would be like the king. Yeah, he'd be the prom king.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
then
and then the jocks would come in and beat us all up, but
oh,
whatever.
whoa, whoa, they'd beat you up.
Okay, yeah, just me. You're right. I'd take one for the team. You're right. I would take one for the team while you guys enjoy the prom.
That's good
Yeah.
stuff. Well, we've been going for an hour and 40 minutes. I think we've solved all the world's problems. What do you think?
I think we have. I think the world is a better place.
This is good.
Um, yeah, we've solved crime,
Yep.
poverty,
Yep.
sicknesses. I
Took care of
mean,
it.
like it's all done. I think you guys are going to live in a utopia now, and
Yep.
you have Nate and I to thank.
Yep.
And again, just 24 easy payments of 9.99,
Yeah, that's gonna
no
be
problem.
NP mail on PayPal.
Yeah, yeah.
Fantastic.
Listen, listen. Thank you for the interview. It's been fun getting to know you, and you and I talk a bit behind the scenes, and um, I would at
Mhm.
least say that we've become friends. I would say,
Certainly.
and it's cool to see what you're up to, and your interviewing prowess getting better and better each time you do one.
Thank you.
Um, and I hope I wish nothing but success for you. You're a good dude.
I appreciate it. Same
Um,
to you, man. Yeah, it's
thank you.
nice. It's nice seeing people with such a healthy perspective on things, and yeah, you're definitely a good influence in the community.
I'm uninfluenced. I don't know about good. Time will tell.
Yeah, well,
History will tell about good or not.
I
But
mean, we'll see how well this common ages, but you know.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's true. Yeah. No, I appreciate you, man, and thank you for having me on. This was fun. It felt nice to be able to just like talk somewhat openly too, and just shoot the breeze in some sense and talk about some serious stuff and have a few laughs.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
appreciate it a lot.
I mean, I never would have thought I'd have a dirty Zig programmer on, but
Ah,
you know, we live in these progressive times.
Yes, inclusive, right? We have to be inclusive. Yeah. Yeah, I know. Because, I'm just saying, if you segment me out enough, I'm going to be unique enough that you could be prejudiced against me. So you don't want to do that. Could get in trouble.
That's good. Well, I suppose I'll let you go back to your stream. I'll force everyone in here to listen to me talk about just self promote for a while you do that, and I'll send everyone back
Okay.
on over.
Okay, sounds good. Give me a few minutes. I'm going to like refresh everything, take a bathroom break, all that, but it won't be more than like 5-ish minutes, and I'll get my stream started, and then I'll just ping you and I'll let you know when I'm up and running again.
All right, sounds good.
Okay, thank you again, Nate. Thank you everyone in chat. Thank you everybody who watched. I really do appreciate it.
Thanks for coming on.
No problem, no problem. Okay, we'll talk soon.
Yep. All right, so Spiro's gone. It's just me. I'll raid you guys over to him once he's ready. If you're one of my viewers, definitely go over there and watch. He's working on this game in with a Zig back end. The front end is it's a ship battle game. He's doing the whole thing in what's it called? He's doing the whole thing just in raw like HTML and CSS. It's kind of neat. None of that canvas nonsense the kids are using. It's a pretty neat project. Yeah, maybe I have to talk to chat a little bit. I've been ignoring you guys. Swift sucks. Mac is bad. Yikes. Bad take. You just don't do React correctly. If you do it exactly, it's amazing. That was deprecated 20 minutes ago. Yeah, that's the React experience. Oh, I just want to do this one thing. Oh, all I have to do is X, Y, and Z. Oh, wait, no, we changed that 8 minutes ago, you idiot. Very, very classic React nonsense. Designer clothes for brainless fools. I disagree. My Versace robe stands to disagree. Versace butt plug, very funny. You compromise too much. Zealots of Crabbling will come for your soul. Yeah. Let's see. Spiro's is legitimately good people. Absolutely. What if you're a viewer of both? All right. Here's what you do if you're a viewer of both me and Spiro. This is going to be a little controversial, but I'm going to say it. I only stream for 2 hours every day. Spiro streams for like 6 hours. So I'm not going to say sneak over here while Spiro's streaming, but like, is he going to miss you for the 2 hours I'm on? Hey. First time catching your stream, your excellent interviewer. Thank you, Laughing Panda. I appreciate it. Look forward to your future streams. Yeah. Speaking of future streams, I guess while people are here, I'll explain kind of what I do here. When I'm not interviewing people, the interview happens on Mondays. When I'm not interviewing people, I like to write software. Of course, I generally cast kind of a wide net. I'm always doing different projects and different technologies. If you want to get exposed to different frameworks, different programming languages, different things, I'm the place to watch. One of my projects is called Pape Changer. It's linked in the box below me. It's just a cross-platform wallpaper changing application where the core of it is written in Go, and then I have an Apple kind of wrapper application that's written in Swift UI. I really like that project, and then I'm also planning on. It works on Windows as well, just not quite as good. I need to shore up some of that stuff. I intend to write some C# for that. I'm building web interfaces and all sorts of things. I like to explore different technology, and I like to do my best to build useful software. I have an active Discord you can come into, full of very smart, very driven people who are constantly trying to get better at writing code and things of that nature. So if you if you think I got a good personality, or if you hate my personality and you just want to be mad at me, either one works. Come hang out in the Discord. Check me out on YouTube. I'm going to try to put up some long form content. I'm in the early stages of working on a documentary about how the NeoVim editor came along, starting all the way back in the early 1960s, because it's got such a long lineage. Yeah, I like to kind of investigate kind of a little bit deeper level than a lot of people. A lot of people do the framework of the day type content. I don't really care much for that. I really like making useful things. Shoot, I don't have that much more to say. Uh No, what else is there? Please stick around. I got to make sure. Oh, wait a second. Spiro, is he ready to go? He's up. Fantastic. Then let us all head back to Spiro. So we will get this raid going. So thanks everyone for sticking in there and watching. Hope you enjoyed it. I'll be trying to do more of these podcasts in the future. And back to your regularly scheduled programming.